Literally every single competent American administrator is ringing the alarm bells about how this has not gone down the way that they thought it would. It's so funny. Like, literally all of the intelligence community is basically universally saying the same exact shit. And this guy's like, nah, dude, the CIA is actually holding off on using their secret weapon. They got magicians and warlocks hidden inside of Langley, and they're going to come out and they're going to cast a hex on the Muslim clerics. Just even sheer optics alone should cause you to understand America's not doing good right now at all.
I think in the United States, it was seen as something of an opportunity. You know, I have a couple of rules when it comes to foreign policy. One is really understand the country before you go to war with it. And I think the United States violated or ignored that rule 20-odd years ago when we went to war with Iraq. And I think we once again ignored that rule in the case of Iran. You can win a war militarily, yet not win it strategically and politically. It reminds me of some other wars of choice the United States has fought over the years, like Vietnam and so forth. And if you look...
He's saying that now, but this was him. Haas now wants to talk to Iran. In January, he called for the bombing of Iran and demanded that it would dismantle its nuclear program and abandon its regional policies in any negotiation. The bloc keeps coming up with poor policy proposals because it's never held to account. In Iran, we are unable to defend protesters, but we can attack regime military sites, provide internet to help opposition, publicly articulate a package of eco-benefits that Iran would get if it gave up its nuclear program and proxies that embrace political reform. Now, oh shit, Iran got hands. The cost of epic fury far outweigh the benefits. It will get worse as the war drags on. We cannot expect regime change or more war to serve our interests. We need to get serious about negotiating with Iran. And you still got in this chat every now and then coming in to be like, no, it's actually a big success. They're all falling. They're all escaping the sinking ship like a bunch of rats.
Well, I think it's important for your viewers, Jesse, and the American people to know that there's never in history been a more total asymmetric, one-sided annihilation of the enemy than you are witnessing that is unfolding right now in Iran. Iran has long been feared by all the nations of the Middle East. It's long been believed to be one of the great military powers of the region, and yet the United States, under President Trump's leadership, has annihilated their navy, has annihilated their missile capabilities, has dealt devastating strikes to the IRGC and their command structure, has taken out, in collaboration and coordination with Israel, their nation's sinister leadership and command structure. It has been a complete wipeout of their capacity to unleash violence on the world. And we are in the process right now of degrading their entire military industrial base so that they cannot resume creating and building these weapons that not only could reach Europe, that not only can reach our military bases, but that someday could reach the mainland United States. So this has been, by every definition, an unprecedented military success against a regime that since 1979...
Yeah, we were going to be out of Iraq in like 3 weeks.
...has exported nothing but bloodshed and violence and claimed countless American lives.
It's so funny that this has been the same propaganda with Korea, same propaganda with Vietnam, same propaganda with Afghanistan, same propaganda with Iraq. And that has been defeat after defeat after defeat after defeat after countless lives were stolen for no reason whatsoever other than American imperialism. Okay? I guess after the 25 years of the failure of the global war on terror, Americans have even less appetite for this kind of bullshit. And they are, on the one hand, begging for an uprising that simply is not happening. Okay? And on the other hand, trying to talk about how successful their military goals have been, even though America keeps losing assets, $60 million at a time.
The days to come. Well, you asked earlier as well about the future of the regime, because I didn't want to leave that question hanging. The president's been clear on this point too, Jesse. The people of Iran have an opportunity, if they choose to take it, their last best chance to claim control of the future. But whatever choice they make, President Trump has been abundantly straightforward in saying the United States will pursue and achieve its military objective.
All right. Makes sense to me, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, come on. Why don't you do an uprising? Come on, Gulf states. Why don't you join the war? It's so funny. We're so successful. We're so successful in our military ambitions that we're just like begging the people of Iran to rise up against the people protecting them right now, or at least striking back at the people bombing them. We're begging the Gulf states, after they got pummeled, to rise up against Iran. Incredible stuff.
You see it.
Of course, Ben Shapiro also loves this shit. All of the worst villains of American politics love this shit.
Enormous number of Iranians, millions, tens of millions of Iranians who hate the regime. The problem is they don't have the guns, which is why you saw these gigantic protests beginning in December, and you saw 32,000 people shot in the streets. I know that we're supposed to forget about all that because opponents of the war, as we will get to, are very, very upset about a girls' school that got hit in the war. And then we're supposed to totally pretend that the Iranians don't slaughter innocent Iranians at the rate of tens of thousands the minute they pop their heads out of the ground. In any case, the Israelis have been pummeling IRGC stations in Iran's western regions, particularly the areas that border Azerbaijan and Iraq. Those happen to be areas that are largely comprised of Azeris and Kurds. Remember, Iran is actually less Persian than America is white. There are huge minority populations in Iran, and they largely live in the border areas with other countries.
Bro, at first I thought there was like photoshopped eyebrows, but it's kind of crazy that like his real eyebrows are getting larger and larger.
Kurds, for example.
Hey, Hasan, what's your take on Sudan right now? Iran, by pummeling the UAE and cutting off their supply route to the RSF, are unironically playing a role in the liberation of Sudan at this very moment, where the Sudanese military can now take over towns that were previously ethnically cleansed by the RSF, now that they can't get their backing from the UAE. Ironically enough. What is this? I am Arab. Frogan is a good example too. She's literally white, but she's visibly Muslim. Frogan, where did you see this? This is from 20 minutes ago. You're responding to a chatter that referenced you 20 minutes ago. His eyebrows decided to take up more territory in his space.
Live on the eastern side of the border with Iraq. So you have Iraqi Kurds on one side, Iranian Kurds on the other, and some interplay between the two. We could see serious incursions into Iran from both Azerbaijan and from Iraqi Kurdistan by Iranian Kurds. And if that happened, there would be a serious challenge to IRGC forces. Those forces are now isolated from Iran because of the fracturing of the IRGC leadership class. Basically, with the destruction of the top levels of the IRGC, the lines of command have now broken down, and you have specific IRGC areas governed by specific IRGC commanders. Many of these brigades are maybe 3,000 to 5,000 people. And so the entire structure could begin to collapse piece by piece. And if that happens, then more and more Iranians in the center of the country will understand that the moment has come for action. And this is being facilitated pretty actively by the Israeli government. Right now, we are reading astonishing reports of Israeli drones that are so specific. These are suicide drones. They are targeting specific IRGC checkpoints in Iran. So when we say checkpoints, we mean like areas on a street where IRGC soldiers are standing, waiting for people to emerge so they can shoot them. And Israel has been from 1,000 miles away directing suicide drones to take out specific IRGC soldiers at specific intersections, essentially killing. I like that
Ben's analysis has been reduced to that classic tweet. Just walk into Leningrad and seize it. Or whatever the that is. Like, you know what I'm talking about? The Hearts of Iron 4 Nazi. Don't invade Russia in the winter. Take it. Don't siege Leningrad. Take it immediately. Like that. This is the same. Like what is this? What goes for serious analysis? Come on, Kurds, do something. What do they got? 5,000, 10,000 max militias. They got like 5,000 to 10,000 people max. Some of them are experienced in combat. Some of them aren't. What the fuck are they supposed to do? It's so stupid. Yeah, how Hitler could have won. Don't terror bomb Britain. Focus on RAF facilities. Demand Mussolini not be at our war with the Balkans. Don't siege Leningrad. Take it immediately. Zerg rush Stalingrad to cut off Soviet oil. Ally with the Slavs against the commies. Ignore Africa. That's what Ben Shapiro's analysis is reduced to at this point.
The suppression force is necessary to kill protesters en masse in the streets if there should be some sort of popular uprising. And finally, the United States could simply bomb until the bombing is done.
Where was I? Oh, latest from President Trump. When oil prices go up, we make a lot of money. Another perfect vulgar imperialism moment from Donald Trump. Because he's right. The United States is the largest oil producer in the world by far. So when oil prices go up, we make a lot of money. When he says we, though, he's talking about the oil giants. He's talking about the corporations. He's right. The American people are not. Okay? So that's true. He's just saying the quiet part out loud once again. Loud once again. The American people, of course. He means his next post will say, rebuilding all the military bases will be great for the economy. We're a midnight away from full brandization. I think we might be there, dude. Oh, this was also, what do you call it? Ali Larjani posting like King Von. Trump has said we can take apart Iran's electric capacity within 1 hour, but we have not done it. Well, if they do that, the whole region will go dark in less than half an hour, and darkness provides ample opportunity to hunt down U.S. servicemen running for safety. Oh, police steady watching me. What is this? U.S. citizenship is a privilege, not a right?
Should not be here. Being a U.S. citizen is a privilege. It is not a right. And if you are not going to honor that right and treat people with respect, and you are going to hurt American citizens, you must be removed from our country immediately.
You know, Paul, let me go to you first to comment on old.
The
fuck? This tan should get you a ban from the U.S.? Yeah. If only. Anyway. Like, the calculation for Iran is clear. Destroy the Gulf economies to put pressure on the U.S. That's really interesting that you say that. So why didn't they do this last year? Why didn't they do this the year prior? Why didn't they do this 3 years ago? Why didn't they do this 4 years ago? You think Iran didn't have the same military equipment back then? They did. As a matter of fact, they had a much more successful axis of resistance that they could have leaned into at that time as well. Why didn't they do this after October 7? If Iran wanted to blow up the Gulf, they clearly had the capability to do so. That much is clear, especially in the last 12 days. We've found out that that is the reality, right? So why didn't they do it randomly? What events triggered this retaliation against American assets and American military bases in the region? What country would not attack launching pads, the launching pads of their foreign occupiers and their foreign enemies? What are you, stupid? What the hell are you talking about? The goal from the Iranian calculation is very clear. They want America to retreat from the region. They want to defang Israel. Sorry, dude, this argument is pretty weak. Iran and the Sunni Arabs have been in conflict for way longer than Israel was even in the picture. Really? Oh, really? That's really interesting. So this is a Sunni Shiite sectarian conflict. So answer my question then. Why did they not do this 10 years ago? Why did they not do this after October 7? This is pure cope. Iran is a sovereign regional actor. They have regional stability ambitions, just like any other country does. There's only one country in the region that does not want stability. That country is Israel. It's that simple. Yeah. Iran is so invested in sectarian conflict that they are the primary funder of the only Sunni group that is openly fighting against Israel. Can you explain why they don't want stability? Because they have America. They literally can do whatever the they want. Who's going to oppose them was the calculation until these past 12 days. They weren't being bombed to shit. This is the only leverage they have to stop the bombing. Okay, so you do understand it. Got it. Okay, glad that you understand exactly what's going on here. Israel does not care about stability because Israel, in that instability, can just take over more and more territory and no one can fight back against it. Israel does not want a powerful Gulf alliance. It's really interesting because the ones that are getting over the hardest here are the Emiratis. Okay? And what's really interesting about that calculation is they must have realized at some point that Israel doesn't even care about them either, because they were the ones who were actively aligning with Israel. They were the ones who were aggressively petitioning the rest of the Gulf states to act in unison with Israel. They were the ones who were the dogs of Israel. And look how Israel has treated them. It's not like they got special privileges as a consequence of this. It's not like they got any sort of additional defense as a consequence of this. The ones that are getting over in this process, I would say, are the Qataris. Because outside of Oman, in the region, the one other country that has to have decent relations with Iran is Qatar. They share a gas field, okay? So that waterway, across the waterway, you have Qatar on the one side, you have Iran on the other side. They share the same gas field. They have literally they have a partnership in extracting natural gas. We're not even talking about the citizens, by the way. The citizens are somewhat irrelevant in this calculation because we're talking about monarchies in the Gulf, right? I'm talking specifically about the people who actually are making these decisions, the people who actually control these countries, the monarchs themselves. That's their calculation. They also don't want to wage war with Iran. In other words, Gulf states aligned with Israel and U.S. are openly acknowledging that given Israel's fanatical expansionism and open threats versus U.S. allies like Turkey, they will someday be on the chopping block. Omani foreign minister actually suggests this is widely acknowledged privately. Left, Omani foreign minister's statement today suggesting that after Iran, Israel, Washington will turn on the other Gulf states. Right, ex-Qatari MP's statement from March 1st saying Israel, Washington seek to weaken Gulf states, which must band together to resist future aggression. There is one option, though, for the Gulf states, and that is China. There's one option for the Gulf states. It's China and Turkey, and that's what I suspect they will lean into. I mean, Qatar already has Turkish military, Turkish troops, and a broad partnership with Turkey anyway. The actual goal of the war is to weaken Iran, reshape the region, and push forward the normalization file with a broader context that also involves attempts to prevent the establishment of the Palestinian state. Why not Russia? I've thought about that. I think they would rather, I suspect they would, I don't think they trust Russia as much either. Vladimir Putin is a lot closer to Israel than you think he is. Okay? Tactically, yes, he will align with Iran. He will send Iran weapons. But Vladimir Putin is also somewhat close to Israel himself. China, on the other hand, has trade negotiations with Israel, but China doesn't give a fuck about anything. China only gives a fuck about trade. They just want the commerce to flow. They want to keep moving units. They will die if they don't move units. Yeah. Doubt American influence will dissipate after this war in the Gulf. I don't think we know what things are going to look like and how this war is going to end. If that makes sense. We have no idea what it's going to look like when all is said and done, when the dust is settled. I do know, however, that the longer this goes on, the worse things will be for America. Well, why Bernie said this about Saudi, Hassan? Israel and Saudi Arabia pushed the U.S. to attack Iran. He doesn't fuck with Saudi Arabia. I don't either, but he's wrong about this. There was reporting that Saudi Arabia was also privately urging America to strike Iran. I don't believe that reporting at all. And I am not a fan of Saudi Arabia. Y'all know I have criticized Saudi Arabia quite a bit. I do not believe it. I think the only Gulf state that was invested in this, who might be dumb enough to not think of the consequences, would be the UAE, not Saudi Arabia. It was Israel and maybe the UAE, but probably not even the United Arab Emirates. Netanyahu killed 72 people in Gaza, mostly women and children. Saudi Arabia is a brutal dictatorship that allows no opposition. These are the leaders who want to bring freedom to Iran. Does anyone really believe that? I wonder why he says Netanyahu killed 72,000 people in Gaza, but then says Saudi Arabia is a brutal dictatorship. Because, you know, and he doesn't say like MBS is brutal and allows no opposition. Kind of feels like he has a difference there. There's like a little bit of difference there, I've noticed. Have you noticed that? I have noticed that. What do you think it would really take for the GC states to get up and kick out the U.S. Gulf bases? It's already kind of happening because if the bases are reduced to rubble, then, you know, what are you going to do? Khalid bin Salman, in a call with Catherine Vautrin, we condemned the Iranian aggression against the kingdom. We also discussed regional developments and repercussions that the ongoing escalation posed to security and stability in the region. Khalid bin Salman says, actually, you are the aggressor. We're not in the 1900s anymore. There are things you cannot hide, especially your hypocrisy. Let's put it this way. A ton of mainstream news likes to say we're in uncharted waters for very charted waters. We are right now, in fact, in uncharted waters. I agree. Yeah. That's why I said, you know, at the beginning of this conflict, that we are now officially in the weeks where decades happen. And decades, as a matter of fact, have been happening. And they've been unfolding every single day.
With each day that goes by in this war, there's obviously all sorts of events and implications for the global economy and indeed the economy here in Europe. But let's just kind of give you an update. Past 24 hours, some of the big moments, big news events. 2 oil tankers set on fire just in the north of the Persian Gulf. One of them also further south, a Chinese container ship attacked in Jebel Ali just outside of Dubai. The airports in Kuwait struck by drones, also airport attacks in Bahrain as well. And then also, perhaps even more concerning than everything else, just in the south of Oman, Salalah, an oil facility there attacked. Now, this is an area, as you can see, it's far outside of the Strait of Hormuz, which of course is the key issue here, not being able to get ships in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah,
there it is. Trump hits out at reports that top U.S. general warned against attacking Iran. Remember that? Does he know that the CIA definitely has an ace up their sleeve, though? Yeah, I don't know. They'll deploy that ace up their sleeve soon enough. This is going to keep happening, by the way. It's going to keep happening. You're going to see more and more reports like this. More American assets lost. As slowly but surely, Iran chips away at the American confidence by just remaining steadfast and not backing away. The faster we go to the negotiations process and listen to all of the Iranian demands and pull the out of the region, the better things will be. True, my uncle works with the CIA and he told me the CIA is a secret weapon to shoot the country of Iran with a laser and they suddenly are no longer able to eat kubide. They will surrender soon. Trust the Iranian cannot go a week without kubide. No, President Trump, not my kubide.
And the new supreme leader of Iran saying that will remain closed. And all of that together is enough to concern people in the oil market, part of which is why the International Energy Agency has staged this unprecedented intervention, pumping an extra 400 million barrels of oil out into the market, or at least they plan to in the coming months. And a lot of that, I mean, this is bigger, you can see that, bigger than Ukraine in 2022, bigger than Libya, bigger than Hurricane Katrina, bigger than the first Gulf War, giving you a sense of just how concerned they are about what's happening right now.
CME has warned us. CME has warned that U.S. intervention in oil futures would be a biblical disaster, according to the Financial Times.
A lot of that, the biggest share, comes from America. So 172 million barrels coming from the U.S. But here's something interesting and perhaps concerning. If you look into the size of America's stockpiles, here's what you see. Okay, so this is America's strategic petroleum reserve, and this is basically all of this oil that America has stashed away in various reservoirs around the US. And going back to the 1990s, so I mentioned the Gulf War. Look, that was the point in the Gulf War where lots of oil was released from the US. Hurricane Katrina over there. You've got Libya in 2011, and the biggest of all of the releases of oil came in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But here's what's striking.
RIP World Cup 2026. Oh my God. I forgot about that shit, bro. I forgot. Your ops are using this to prove you are wrong. This is real. This is what's happening. I didn't even think of that. I didn't even realize, bro. That's a straight shot, dude. That's a straight shot. Approximately 12,000 miles, dude, of open sea. Also, one thing that you guys haven't considered is Iran has already nuked Australia off the map. Okay? Yeah, the back door was always open, and all of these other countries have been deleted. Iran did that shit, and now they're coming for Los Angeles.
Just look at where that line is now. Look at it compared with previous years. It is close to a historic low, this
Let's continue.
strategic petroleum reserve. In other words, the biggest crisis in the oil market in recent history, which is what the International Energy Agency say this is, has happened at the point when the US has the least resources to be able to throw at it from its reserve. That's pretty striking, isn't it? And all of which has kind of contributed to what's going on with the oil price, which has been a complete roller coaster in the past few days. There it is at the end of last week. You can see the roller coaster started early this week, where it went up to about almost $120 a barrel. Donald Trump stepped in and said, no, the war is complete, and that kind of pushed it down a little bit. But then soon afterwards, it started to rise. And you can see even after the IEA released all of that oil into the market, or said they were going to, actually oil prices went up rather than down. And partly that's just because of all of this chaos that's still happening in the Persian Gulf even now. All of this raises the question, what are the implications going to be for the wider economy? You know that oil prices, when they go up, they push up petrol prices, which in turn pushes up inflation. And here's a pretty interesting, it's just an early estimate of how much higher oil prices and gas prices might push up inflation in various countries around the world. What the numbers are showing you here is how much on top of the existing forecast. So the UK was forecast to have about 2% inflation. If it goes up by another 1 percentage point, then you're talking about close to 3%, raising the question, what does the Bank of England do there? But the other striking thing looking at this is just the variance. So Canada, for instance, it's relatively kind of small in terms of how much oil it imports from overseas. And so as a result, the inflation impact isn't so much. Whereas over here in China, you've got 12% of its imports are oil, and therefore, just look at how high inflation would go above the forecasts in China. Similar story, by the way, if you look at just the potential impact on GDP, just overall economic growth. And the big picture here is, well, basically, for pretty much every economy around the world, this is negative. I mean, slight statement of the obvious there, but nonetheless, this is not a good thing when it comes to overall economic activity. The UK, weaker growth somewhat. This year, this is all for this year, these numbers, and they are the numbers versus the forecast. So the forecast at the moment, kind of 1.5% or so percent, that's cut. But the US cut even more. And that then raises the question, you know, what does Donald Trump do in response to this? The US is much more dependent on oil than many other economies. So what does Donald Trump do in response? He doesn't want to see a downturn in the US, but that might well happen if this continues. Meanwhile, in the Gulf, what we're looking at here are the flight paths of various different planes going around the Gulf. This was the picture just before this conflict broke out. And keep an eye on the flights going over kind of Iraq, going over Iran. And now I'm just going to kind of show you what happened in the following days. So we're just moving from day to day. Look at these flight paths, and look at how basically they've just stopped. You're not seeing any flight paths around this region at all. And you're seeing far fewer going into Dubai and going into this area in the UAE. And you get a real sense of that if you look just at the level of flights into and out of the United Arab Emirates, so Dubai, Abu Dhabi and so on, after those attacks begin. Just look at the extraordinary fall. It has gone from being, Dubai for instance, which is by far and away the biggest airport here, has gone from being the biggest airport in the world to falling to near zero and barely recovering. And that's really the final question to kind of bear in mind as we just consider the impacts of this war. How many of these economic impacts are not short-lived, but last for a long time?
One thing that these guys are not factoring in is if you look at the price of oil, and this is like post-COVID, you should probably understand this. The price of oil does not go down. The base price of oil barrels stay at that level. Look at the oil crisis in the 70s, and you will understand. The base price of a barrel of oil never went down after, okay? Like, sure, the initial inflationary shock diminished, but the base price stayed the same. And the price of everything else also went up. Same with COVID. Because of corporate consolidation. Corporate consolidation makes it easy to engage in greedflation. Corporate consolidation makes it super easy for prices to stay as elevated as possible. There is no incentive to like rip those prices back down to reasonable levels. All right, let's get the Channel 4's assessment. Back to monitoring the situation.
Is America actually losing the war, or could it? How is Iran able...
What the f***? Channel 4 has like a YouTuber now with maps? This is Channel 4 Johnny Harris. The number of Iranian missile launches has held steady after a week of unrelenting airstrikes, according to Israeli and Western estimates. Oh, what the
to do this? When President Trump says they've been bombed into submission.
We've knocked out their Navy, their military in all forms. We've knocked out just about everything there is, including their leadership.
But the Iranians are still launching attacks, setting ships on fire, and drone bombing oil facilities.
You can be very damaged and have a bloody nose, but still be capable of being a big nuisance.
So, could Iran actually win this war? Could its cheap drones make it too expensive for America and Israel to fight? The US talks about what victory means, but what does defeat look like? Here's the breakdown with Tyler Anderson. One of the most surreal things about this war is...
How the f*** do you endure listening to this moron 9/7... 365. No wonder you can't wait for these dumbass cult loyals to get owned even slightly at Hasanabi. Who is the moron you're talking about that I endure listening to?
How it's been talked about. Take a look at this video that was posted by the official White House account.
Oh my God, this shit was so f***ing stupid.
That's the actual American government posting that. And right at the same time that they appear to be joking about how much they've destroyed. As we speak, though, Iran is blowing up ships and oil refineries across the region. So what's going on? Let's bring in someone who knows more about modern warfare than nearly anyone. Journalist Shashank Joshi, defense editor at The Economist magazine. The Trump administration is sort of saying that it's taken out all Iranian capacity to fire missiles and everything. Is that really true?
Well, I think you've got to consider three things. One is having the ability to make missiles. The other one is having the missiles themselves. And the third one is being able to fire them. And I think it's true that in these airstrikes by America in Israel over the past 2 weeks, they've done significant damage to all three of those things, to the capacity to make missiles, to the stockpiles, and to the ability to get those launchers out there in the open and to fire them before you're detected and bombed by an American or Israeli plane above you. They've lost probably the Iranians half their launchers, so a huge loss for the Iranians, significant numbers of missiles, probably in the thousands. However, it is still true, though, the Iranians are getting drones away, and we've seen that continuing to fire against the Gulf Arab states. I've seen videos of a drone hitting a building in Dubai in the last 24 hours. And it's also true that the Iranians are probably holding back some of their missiles, thinking we're not going to fire these now because we can't, but we'll keep them in reserve so that we can keep up this occasional firing for perhaps another couple of weeks if the war goes on. So it is basically not true that Iran's missile capacity has been destroyed. There is still some left.
If you just listen to Donald Trump, you would think that Iran had been totally pulverized. If you just watched the White House, these bombastic videos they put out, that's what you'd think. Is that the reality?
I think it is true that Iran has been pummeled really, really badly. They've obviously lost their supreme leader. They've lost their head of their defense ministry, their Revolutionary Guards, which is like their special elite military force. And they have seen massive bombing across missile sites, nuclear sites, against Revolutionary Guard bases, police bases, intelligence bases, and on and on and on. But fundamentally, the regime is still standing. It's still there. You still have a new supreme leader who's in place, the son of the last one. He's called Mojtaba Khamenei. You've got a Revolutionary Guard that's still in place. They are still capable, ultimately, of making life difficult for their neighbors. In particular, disrupting the flow of oil.
Even this is called no shot, half the launchers are gone. Yeah. This reminds me of like when the American government's assessments are like, oh, we've destroyed the Iranian naval fleet.
Out of the Persian Gulf, out of a choke point that they control called the Strait of Hormuz, in having that minimal capability to keep causing chaos, they can cause global economic turmoil despite all the damage that's been done to their military capabilities. And for now, that's enough to give them quite a bit of leverage.
So America has the firepower, but Iran can set fires still all across the region and really choke global trade.
That's right. I mean, you can be a very weak actor, you can be very damaged and have a bloody nose, but still be capable of being a big nuisance, an extreme nuisance to the world economy. And if you want another example of this, we could look back perhaps a year or two to the Houthis, who were a rebel group based in Yemen, supported by Iran, and they were really not a very advanced group. They were a rebel group. They controlled lots of Yemen. They were not very sophisticated, but they were able to fire missiles at shipping through the Red Sea that caused effectively a
First French casualty, Francis Macron, Chief Warrant Officer Arnaud Friand died for France during an attack in Erbil, in the Erbil region of Iraq.
I think the important thing to remember here is, if you're Iran, you don't need to destroy every ship coming through the Strait of Hormuz. You just need to destroy one to make it prohibitively risky for all the others to say, hang on a minute, I'm not going to go through that route. And so you can get a lot done with very, very minimal firepower. That's the lesson, I think.
So is it that Donald Trump didn't know that Iran could do this in the Strait of Hormuz, or that he did know and didn't think it would happen, or they didn't have a plan?
Well, we can never quite peer into the mind of the US president. He changes his minds a lot. He's very unpredictable. He says one thing at breakfast and another thing by lunchtime. So I can't say for sure, but my suspicion is he thought that he would be able to pummel Iran so badly that by this point, perhaps they would have done a deal. Perhaps they would have been paralyzed. I don't think he necessarily factored in that if Iran felt its back was to the wall, that they had no other choice, they were cornered, that they would take the rest of the region down with them. They would try to destroy oil refineries and production plants and export plants and gas facilities across the Persian Gulf. And I think that they had little left to lose. If you're going to be toppled anyway, why not try to do all you can to say, I will take you down with me? I think that's what we're seeing with Iran.
Hashtag war update, things are going well. Chinooks over Iraq conducting SAR. Bloomberg, Iran's missile launcher arsenal holds steady despite strikes. CBS, today, 19 military personnel were evacuated from Saudi Arabia to Germany after being injured in Iranian attacks. They're doing search and rescue. A Reuters visual investigation raises questions about how U.S. military could have missed a documented years-long online presence for the girls' school that was bombed in Iran. This includes dozens of photos of the children and their activities. The U.S. investigation is still ongoing. Yeah, there's the other side, where our own internal investigation is cooking. It's over. You have to retreat. You have to retreat. Now, they're trying to present this as a accident. And as far as like tactics goes, it must be, because otherwise you're an idiot. You were so bloodthirsty, you blew up a school without a second care. And I do believe that. I believe that it was most likely AI. That carelessness and the utilization of AI and the targeting is possibly the reason for why we did this. Because it goes directly against the military goals that these guys have. But it doesn't matter whether it's a mistake or deliberate. It doesn't fucking matter, because the results are still the same. We murdered little girls going to school And then we struck back when their parents were trying to, dust off the rubble. Yeah, also winning. Once again, winning so hard. Nearly 1 trillion wiped out from the U.S. stock market today. So they're not even winning on their own. They're not even winning by their own metrics of success, because this is the only thing that they care about. Lost radars, abandoned South Korea, retreated to Lincoln, needed air from Ukraine, tacoed on Russian sanctions, straight held hostage, redeploying the Ford, unretiring Nimitz, tomahawk schoolgirls, MAGA talking heads now splintering ahead of the midterms, winning the out of the special military operation. This is unironically more catastrophic than the land invasion that Vladimir Putin envisioned. Okay? The Chinese position towards the wars in Ukraine and Iran is comparable to the U.S. during the early stages of World War II. They are simply watching their competitors exhaust their resources fighting and even encouraging the process along a bit, but have no impetus to jump in even later in the process. At some point, when enough has been spent and the power differential expands, they will simply act in East Asia, which is their interest. This is how the U.S. became a global superpower on top of the ruins of a spent Europe a century earlier. Yeah, that's it. America's proximity to the conflict is the reason why it became the domineering superpower in the aftermath of World War II. Now Chinese proximity will allow China to do the same. Only W is I haven't seen J.D. Vance speak for the past 2 weeks. Yeah, he's been awfully quiet. You notice that shit? I said American imperialism is a paper tiger, and now the whole world knows. We must retreat from endless military incursions, focus on diplomacy while rebuilding our country, and allow nations in the periphery to have dignity and sovereignty immediately. Like, the greatest thing that we could do in this circumstance, which is not going to happen, is a complete retreat, okay? That's my assessment, at least. Decoupling from Israel, a complete retreat, and charting a new path forward with diplomacy, okay? Especially for the time being when China has an appetite for such things. I'm not saying that China won't have an appetite for this in the future, but it's very obvious that for the time being, China does have an appetite for such things.
And America, its inability at least to plan for that, for example, by not having enough mine-sweeping ships in the region ready to take off these mines that Iran has said it has laid. I think that does speak to some very, very poor military planning and very poor political preparation from the Trump administration. But of course, anyone who knows anything about the Trump administration knows that we don't normally associate the words careful planning and real thoughtfulness with these people.
America has got bogged down in wars before, hasn't it? Vietnam, Iraq. Just explain how there might be some parallels with those conflicts.
Well, America's fought, of course, many wars in its history, and in the last 40 years, it's had some associated with long, protracted military campaigns from which it has struggled to get decisive results and has had to stay there for years without achieving much. And of course, Vietnam, the US invasion of Vietnam in the 1960s is the paradigmatic case of that, eventually leaving and the North Vietnamese rebels, the Viet Cong, taking over the country in humiliating fashion for the United States as they were airlifting their people off the top of the embassy with helicopters. And then, of course, Iraq and Afghanistan, the invasion of Iraq in 2003 to topple Saddam Hussein, the invasion of Afghanistan 2 years before that to topple the Taliban, who were sheltering Al-Qaeda, a terrorist group that conducted the terrorist attacks of 9/11 against New York and Washington. And both of those were very successful military campaigns at the outset, toppling those groups. But America ended up then placing hundreds of thousands of forces on the ground to stabilize those countries. Eventually, of course, leaving Afghanistan again in humiliating fashion in 2021 when the Taliban took over Kabul again. Now, what the Trump administration says is this is not like Iraq or Vietnam because we are not going to be nation building. We're not trying to build these societies up into democracies. We're not trying to put boots on the ground to stabilize them and stay there for 10 years. This is a limited campaign. And I think that's true. It's not as sprawling and open-ended as Iraq or Vietnam, but it has some similarity in that it is a campaign that is perhaps going on for longer than the Trump administration would want and doesn't necessarily meet all its objectives in the sense of toppling the Iranian regime, completely eradicating its nuclear program. That what we're learning is military power does not solve all your political problems.
Is the other parallel this idea of asymmetrical warfare, in that, you might have all the technology and all the firepower, but we can fight back in ways you didn't expect?
Right. I think missiles have been a big part of this, which are missiles that Iran is firing, wouldn't have been as accurate and as...
I switched over to another streamer to see what they were talking about, and they're playing a clip of you. You're everywhere. Yes, I have a lot of haters. A lot of dumb haters who can't think for themselves, who don't have any real discernible worldview, that just position themselves as being against whatever the I'm for. Ironically enough, many of them find themselves wrong, on the wrong side of every argument.
Easy to fire 30 years ago. Iran fired lots of missiles against Iraq in the Iran-Iraq war of 1980 to 1988. But they were very inaccurate weapons. They were terror weapons. They were fired against cities. What we're seeing today is that they can strike things more precisely. They've taken out, destroyed American radars in Qatar, in Jordan. They have been able to hit American diplomats and embassies and consulates. And that's been quite effective. And so that asymmetric power to strike back, I think, has been helped by modern technology and the availability of quite good missiles to be operated by powers and countries that are not necessarily the biggest or richest militaries in the world.
Just finally, Shashank, can Iran actually win this, or at least not lose?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what is victory here? I think nobody can define that very clearly. But from Iran's perspective, they may come out of this very badly bruised. But if they come out of it with their regime intact, the Islamic Republic that took power in that 1979 revolution, with a supreme leader, with the Revolutionary Guards, and able to keep their population in control and saying, if you come out back on the streets like you did this year, we will massacre you again. If that is where this ends up, and they can build more missiles and they can rebuild their nuclear program, that will count as a success for the Iranians. And I think whatever they claim, it will look like a defeat for the Americans and the Israelis.
Thanks for breaking that down for us, Shashank. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's the breakdown. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
They got a breakdown now? That's crazy.
You've obviously pledged to help in the insurance process for ships, with Lloyd's of London pausing on that detail. Big announcements in the last 24 hours about releases from strategic reserves from both the IEA and you as well. It hasn't worked in the short term on oil prices.
Well, no. Let's back up. The market lives in the future. So we got the oil spike on Sunday night, and I think maybe at one point we were up about $30, and then overnight the FT published that the IEA was considering a 300 to 400 million barrel release. And then we had the biggest single reversal in one-day history that day. So it was already priced in. So we had a G7 finance ministers meeting on Monday where it was discussed, energy meeting, ministers meeting yesterday, and then, Tuesday, and then yesterday I was in the Oval with the president for the leaders meeting, and the leaders confirmed that it would in fact be a 400 million barrel release, which is the largest in history.
Yeah, I fully accept that. The news of a potential release.
Yeah, irony, of course, is the bigger the release, the worse the future is. He literally keeps saying, no, you don't understand. Look at how many barrels of oil we're releasing from the strategic reserves. Yeah, that's an indication that this conflict is going to keep going. And that's the reason why it doesn't actually stabilize prices at all. Because most people understand that until the Strait is open, there is no global oil market.
Brought prices down from their peak, but clearly we're still up 50% or so from where we started the year. I guess my point is, are you starting to think, if this does keep persisting as it is, that the Navy has to go into the Strait of Hormuz to help ships get through, which would have a big effect on...
Look.
No, it won't. Because the first time they try that, they're going to get nuked with Shahed drones. The first time. the first time they try to cross the strait with a naval asset, or even before then, the first time they tried to bring a naval asset, or I mean, there are some on the other side of the Gulf, right? But the first time that they try to send a naval asset to try and tow an oil tanker, Iran will take advantage of that choke point and turn it into nothing, okay? They will destroy an American naval asset, which will completely diminish the confidence that people have in the American Navy. And what do you think? What do you think will happen to the oil markets then? What do you think happens to the futures when the American Navy that claims they can defend safe transit of commerce, safe transit of oil through the Gulf, through the Persian Gulf, through the Strait of Hormuz, shows the world that they are completely incapable? Iran knows this. Iran knows this, and that's the reason why they keep saying, go ahead, please, please do it. They literally keep saying it. They're like, come on, please, please, please. Send an American naval asset into the region, please. That would be sick.
That was always in our planning, that there's the chance that U.S. Navy or perhaps an international coalition will be escorting oil tankers through. There are, in fact, tankers coming through now, Iranian tankers, I believe some Chinese flag tankers have come through. So we know that they have not mined the straits.
And was that what you were just discussing in the Situation Room?
We were discussing a plethora of things.
And is it your belief that the volume of ships going through the Strait of Hormuz will be improving immediately from now?
It is my belief that as soon as it is militarily possible, the U.S. Navy, perhaps with an international coalition, will be escorting vessels through.
And that came up just now in the Situation Room?
Your words, not mine. But again,
are we days away from that?
We've been planning for this. We've done scenario analysis for months, for weeks, leading into this. So,
but it's a prospect in.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. They haven't. He's lying. I mean, there are obviously scenario analysis for this exact incident. The problem is they very clearly did not think it through, because if they had done so, if they had listened to the generals, for example, or the analysts that were warning them ahead of time, if you recall, I covered them extensively in the buildup of the Armada, they would not have done this. They would not have even brought the Armada there, which made it infinitely easier for Israel to goad America into attacking alongside them. They thought they had the capability of quickly deteriorating Iranian strike capabilities. They were wrong. They thought they could control the country in a matter of days. They could just do an aerial bombardment, a decapitation strike of the leadership, and then boom, the Iranian people rise up. It's ironic because Benjamin Netanyahu and Gulf affiliated media properties like Iranian International literally lied in the same exact way to both the Iranians in Iran, saying that they were going to be their salvation, saying that all they need to do is rise up, that this would be a clean campaign. And they also lied to the Americans in the same way as well. They lied to everybody. If you're looking to shift the blame, like, I'm not saying the entire responsibility is in the hands of Israel. I'm not one of these guys that thinks like the Americans would have never done this if it wasn't for, blackmail and compromise or whatever. No, they're monsters. They're bloodthirsty monsters. They don't give a shit. Americans are bloodthirsty monsters. They are very clearly willing to wage this war, whether Israel is goading America into waging this war or whether they're doing it all on their own. It doesn't matter, right? They're clearly interested enough. A competent government that did not want Netanyahu to lead the Middle Eastern policy would not have brought their fleet to the region. They just would not have done so. They would have been like, off. Yeah, we're not sending 60% of our naval assets to the region. Get the out of here. You're on your own. You want to hit Iran? You're on your own. See how quickly Israel backs down in that situation.
In the coming days, then?
It is a prospect as soon as we have complete control of the skies and are degrading they have no Air Force. The Navy is sunk, literally and figuratively, and the munitions factories, the rebuilding capabilities for the missiles, completely degraded. So
why is the Strait not open? So why is it not open?
As soon as it is possible for to ensure safe passage, we will do it. And again, with the DFC insurance product, this was something that we had already anticipated, and because Lloyd's does call force majeure and the policies drop away, so we think that $20 billion in insurance for tankers going into and out of the Gulf will be enough to ensure a circular insurance program.
Tons more to get to on your policy long term. A couple more in this area, if I may. What is the running cost?
What will happen if the U.S. starts targeting the Iranian tankers, depriving them of all their money? Destroyers will not run escort, but just sit off the coast with the phalanx guns. Great question, and you might not like the answer to this question. But have you noticed that Iranian tankers have been able to cross through the Strait of Hormuz fairly easily? And those very same Iranian tankers are shipping oil to the Asian markets. Why are Americans that love seizing oil tankers from even Russia, as a matter of fact, why are they not going beast mode on these Iranian tankers? Great question. It's because of where those Iranian tankers are going. They're going to China. And America has already demonstrated that they do not have the power to take out any Chinese naval fleet whatsoever. That's it. That's literally it. That's it. Paper tiger. Start learning Chinese. I thought America just steals tankers. Venezuela. Yeah. Even Russian tankers America has intercepted. So why has America not intercepted Chinese tankers? Why is Iran still able to feed its coffers with the oil that it sells to China? As a matter of fact, the number of oil barrels that they're crossing the Strait of Hormuz right now, Iranian oil that's crossing the Strait of Hormuz, has increased. You are an idiot, and you and people like you will be the end of America. I am the idiot here, not your favorite president. What level of cope are you on, dumbass? If an accurate assessment of events that are transpiring in front of your eyes is that offensive to you that you have to close your eyes and imagine that, like, it's me, I'm the reason. I'm the one who urged America to send the largest armada of naval assets into the region since 2003 in the occupation, the illegal, unjustifiable invasion of Iraq, and utilize all of those assets to defend Israel, strip the entire defenses from the bases in the region, allow billions of dollars worth of radar and early advanced warning systems to be destroyed in the process, pull out their THAAD missile systems from places like Korea. We step on our enemies, pussy. Brother, unfortunately, there are a lot of Americans that are mentally handicapped in the same exact way that you are. And this is why you can't understand what's going on. Listen to my words. First of all, there is no we here, okay? You are not a petro-capitalist pedophile. So you are not making bank in this process, okay? There's no we. You know what you're doing? You're getting your surplus labor value extracted from you by those very same petro-capitalist pedophiles and the Epstein class. And then you are actually burning what remains of that disposable income, the meager wages that they say you are allowed to get. You're burning it because Donald Trump wanted to go to war with Iran at the behest of Israel, a foreign nation state. Have fun with that. idiot. But of course, in your mind, you still think, oh, we're doing force projection. Hoorah, my dick is hard. We're killing our enemies. You're a idiot. You are a moron. You are literally refusing to see what is in front of your eyes right now. And not only that, but you're getting angry at a person who is actually making a sober assessment of the events that have unfolded for the past 9 days. Why is the Strait of Hormuz not open? He's not American. Chatter likes turkey. Double mind cucked. No. Breaking via CBS News on war with Iraq. A KC-135 went down in western Iraq with a crew of 6. Another KC-135 was hit but landed in Israel. Ooh. Ooh, not good. Nah, I'm from here. Hey, Big Lean. Does this look good for force projection capabilities? Hey, Big Lean, can you explain to me the American calculation in going to war with Iran and getting our shit stomped in all of our bases, turning all of our wonderful American military bases into nothing but crater and ashes, losing numerous F-18s in the process, losing a shit ton of MQ-9 Reaper drones in the process, $30 million a pop, billions of dollars of satellite SATCOM and early advanced warning systems, expending all of our defense munitions on Israel to defend Israel, not you, right? To defend the nation state that is hell-bent on waging war with every country in the region, pulling away our THAAD anti-missile defense systems from South Korea, and showing the rest of the world that we are completely incapable of offering real security assurances to countries, and that our American military bases are not actually a part of the security process whatsoever, but instead American military bases turn into missile and bullet sponges like that. What calculation has worked out for America so far, you think? You can keep deluding yourself day in, day out. It took 20 years to fail against the Taliban. It took 9 to recognize the failure against Iran. Question too long. I'm a proud American. I will die for it. America, pussy, and you're welcome. People like me are here. You will not die for Americans. When you do die, if a draft is implemented, you will die for Israel. You will die for the billionaires. You will die for the nation state of Israel. And it seems like you will enjoy it, so have fun with that, I guess. There's nothing funnier than watching the American military might fall apart in a matter of 12 days and have dumb Americans come in and be like, nah, dude, it's actually a tactical victory for us. A tactical victory for us that we let these, tens of billions of dollars worth of complex radar systems get reduced to rubble, actually. I love watching all of my healthcare money light on fire under a barrage of $7,000 Iranian Shahed drones. Womp womp. U.S. CENTCOM is aware of the loss of a U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft. The incident occurred in the friendly airspace during Operation Epic Fury. Oh, God. Just saying that while they're talking about a shuttle tanker getting blasted out of orbit is crazy. Be for real, dude. Listen, my boss is my wife tactically, okay? And he's going to my ass right after. But also, that's a tactical victory for me. I'll have you know, libtard, I wanted my ass okay? And I wanted to watch my wife get first. You don't understand it because you're goddamn libtard who's out here thinking you want to have a gay-ass monogamous relationship with your loved one. Real patriots like me know our asses are gonna get and you'll thank me for it. 2 aircraft were involved in the incident. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq, and the second one landed safely. This was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. Oh my God! Wait, what? Okay, so what was it? A malfunction? I doubt it. I love that you had the right to speak nonsense. You're speaking Bill of Rights. America. Hell yeah, brother. We got free speech for the time being. I love that. Yeah, can you explain to me how invading Afghanistan or Iraq, doing regime destabilization in Libya or Syria played a formative role in maintaining your free speech protections at a time when the president that you love is literally desperately trying to destroy freedom of speech? Sounds like a refueling accident that requires precise flying, and accidents can happen. I choose to believe that it wasn't.
At the moment of this war, $1 billion a day? 10 billion a day?
Again, I'm not keeping the running costs because, you know, in the U.S. we separate Treasury from O&B, so that's why I'm the Treasury Secretary, not the Finance Minister.
Ballpark, though.
A number came out today. In the public number that was released today was about 11 billion thus far.
Thus far, right, over a couple of weeks. And how long, as you look long-term at America's finances, how long are you planning for this conflict to continue for?
Again, that 11 billion is a lot of money, but you know, we have cushions built in, and you know, it's not something that we have to worry about over this horizon.
There's no chance you could be knocking on the president's door to say we have to pause on this, we can't afford it.
Oh, absolutely not, absolutely not. You know, what we've seen last year was continued and increasing foreign interest in U.S. Treasuries. U.S. Treasuries had their best year since 2022, and we were the only G7 bond market with lower yields last year on the 10-year.
By the way, the fact that they're saying it's 11 billion means it's probably 30. Just so you understand. The fact that they're outwardly declaring it's 11 billion means it is probably $30 billion.
Because the Russian barrels are on the water, and it is a quick source of for the Indian refineries. You know, the other way to think about it is those barrels are going to end up in China anyway.
But is it a shame that Russia benefits?
Sorry, again, that it is unfortunate, and we hope that it will be in a micro period that they will benefit.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Also, cash money millionaire. Russia is earning up to $150 million a day in extra budget revenues from oil sales amid price rises, thanks to the U.S.-Iran war. Moscow has so far earned $1.3 billion to $1.9 billion from taxes on oil exports and could receive $3.3 billion to $4.9 billion in total by the end of March. This is why God's favorite Zionist is not Donald Trump. It's Vladimir Putin. Okay? Israel's strongest warrior, Vladimir Putin, sends his regards. Okay? He's out there sitting on a pile of cash. He's like, duh. I could not believe. Oh, how wonderful. My most valuable ally, Israel, has caused the Americans to go to do this stupid thing.
President Trump said last week he's not happy with the UK. He said Keir Starmer is no Winston Churchill. You were speaking about that and what he said in the Oval Office about Spain and the UK last week. And you said that Spain had put American lives at risk. Did Keir Starmer do the same?
Again, that we delayed being able to fully implement the military plan, and you know, I think that the main concern was the use of base Diego Garcia, and the US B-2s had to do a 37-hour round trip rather than, I think it's about a 3.5 hour round trip. So, you know, constantly refueling over. So, you know, I think any delay, causes an increase in risk. And again, you know, President Trump is the commander-in-chief of the U.S. forces, and
don't remind me, bro. Don't remind me.
You know, again, being in the Situation Room with him, that he so solemnly takes that leadership role in terms of.
Dude, by the way, I've never seen this panic as hard. This is one of the competent guys, right? Quote unquote, supposed to be competent in the administration. And he's flubbing so hard. And he's like, well, think about how beautiful dear leader is.
His commitment to maintaining.
Yes, my Jacobin article came out. Calm down. We'll read it later.
The lives of our service people, that anything that upsets him. And I think that's what got the very strong reaction.
But just to clarify, you said of the Spanish, anything that slows down our ability to engage puts American lives at risk. The Spanish put American lives at risk. So did the UK do that too?
I think we have a great historical relationship, and I think we'll get it back on track.
How unhappy is President Trump with Prime Minister Starmer right now?
Belatedly, the Prime Minister offered to put resources in the region. I believe that there are resources in the region, and we have a long-term relationship. There will be some bumps in the road. I think we will eventually get back on track.
Give me your percentage. Iran blows a dirty bomb in the USA. Very, very low. 0%. First of all, you have to think, why would they do that? Okay? Like, let's say their goal is to punish Americans or punish America. Think about how complex of an operation that would be. Virtually impossible, right? Virtually impossible to conduct. Even if they had the ambition to do so, it would be virtually impossible to successfully do this when right now their current posture is infinitely more damaging to the United States of America and actually creating internal pressure in America with the rise of energy prices. It's not 5%, it's 0%. If there was some kind of Iranian-related terror incident, the much higher likelihood is that this was pulled off by Mossad and the CIA or just America internally in order to, whip up some support from the masses to feel a sense of revenge, a sense of purpose in this otherwise very unpopular war. This is currently the most unpopular war that we have waged. In the history of American conflict, this is the most unpopular war. It's less popular than even Libya. Iran is currently doing incredibly well from their perspective, from their goals. Because what victory looks like for Iran is, one, significantly deteriorating American force projection capabilities in the region. Maximalist victory conditions would be to get America to remove their bases from the region, okay? But as far as what their victory conditions are, is just surviving, right? Surviving while keeping the current government intact, keeping the Iranian sovereignty intact. As far as those goals, they're accomplishing those goals. So why would they do something crazy? Especially when Iran has shown time and time again that they actually are fairly restrained. It took quite a bit of loss for them to get to this point.
I guess in the last week or two, we've been reminded of US policy that might be taking a step forwards without allies necessarily all coming on board. We talked about the clashes with Keir Starmer. I've heard you say very often, and the president said it too, that America first doesn't mean America alone. That is...
Bro, they got Scott Bessent stuttering like XQC on national British broadcast. Why the do you think Iran is not already cooking right now? Come on, man. He's one of the most competent guys in the administration, and he's over here bumbling like a idiot. You think America's doing good? Just even sheer optics alone should cause you to understand America's not doing good right now at all.
Your intention and your aim from all of your policies. Do you ever have conversations with your counterparts that makes you worry?
IRGC responds to Trump's ground invasion proposal and begs to send troops. We have been waiting for such a day for years and years. We are 100% ready. Come from our ammunition crates. We have made coffins. We will bury you in this very soil. So that's the other side. Like, Iran stands to benefit from American boots on the ground military warfare because then they get to enact revenge. They also stand to benefit from American naval carriers. American naval assets pursuing oil tankers and lugging them through the Strait of Hormuz. There's been some updates on that story.
The situation with Iran is moving along very rapidly. It's doing very well. Our military is unsurpassed. There's never been anything like it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we're doing what has to be done. Should have been done during a 47-year period. Could have been done by a lot of different people. They chose not to do it. But they really are a nation of terror, and they're paying a big price right now. The situation with Iran is moving along very rapidly. It's doing very well. Our military is unsurpassed. There's never been anything like it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we're doing what has to be done. Should have been done during a 47-year period. Could have been done by a lot of different people. They chose not to do it. But they really are a nation of terror and hate. And they're paying a big price right now. The situation with Iran is moving along very rapidly. It's doing very well.
Very well. The war divides European governments and institutions between loyalty to the alliance with Washington and defense of international law. Europe seeks a line that avoids this escalation. This is even more striking if you consider that Iran's regime is more vilified by mainstream media than Saddam ever was, and that Islamophobia is far more normalized in the EU than it was then. Clear-cut repudiation of the VDL Commission and U.S.-Israel alliance as a moral guide.
Is shot back up to over $100 a barrel overnight as Iran focuses more of its attacks on fuel, tankers, fuel depots, infrastructure across the region. Just take a look at this video from Bahrain. This morning, the International Energy Agency is sounding new alarms, saying that the war in the Middle East is causing the, quote, largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Main reason, oil has been stuck in the Middle East for more than a week because of right there what you're looking at, the Strait of Hormuz. The IEA says the flow of crude and oil products through the Strait of Hormuz has reduced to a trickle. Now President Trump is trying to blunt the impacts of this, authorizing the release of 172 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's part of a broader release of a record 400 million barrels agreed to by the 32-nation International Energy Agency.
CNN business executive editor David Goldman is here with us now. You wrote that the IEA releasing 400 million barrels of oil is like smashing the brake in case of emergency glass. But what will it mean? Is that enough to sort of make things easier for people and businesses, or is it just a drop in the bucket, so to speak?
Well, it's clearly not having an impact right now. I mean, what John was just saying is so key. The only thing that the oil market cares about is getting the Strait of Hormuz back open. This was an extraordinary release of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and it didn't have an impact at all on oil prices. The fact that we went back above $100 last night kind of tells you everything you need to know. It's just not going to help unless we get that strait back open.
I'm curious how long, if this goes on for a few more weeks or months, how long before there's a breaking point where it's very hard to go back? It takes a long time for supply chains to recover, as we saw when it came to COVID.
Yeah, duration is key here, because the longer this goes on, the more pain for you and me. It's not just that we're filling our tanks at $3.60 today. That could go to $4, but truckers are filling their trucks with diesel, which is closing in on $5, and all the stuff that's on those trucks is going to be more expensive for you and me. The businesses that are loading stuff onto trucks
Iran is also Iran is not just like destroying America's refueling capabilities. It seems Iran is destroying American refueling capabilities in Iraq as well, seemingly by targeting stratotankers, the aerial refueling planes, one of which actually went down in Iraq. The other one was able to land and do an emergency landing in Israel. So ain't nobody is refueling, both in the air and on the ground, nowhere.
Trucks, that costs more money for them, and they're paying all these tariff costs. Do you think that they're going to eat the cost of the fuel surcharges? I don't think so. Those are costs that you and I are going to pay too.
Ultimately, how high do you think this is going? We're now, when it hits above 100 a barrel, we all feel it. Where do you see this going if this continues to be blocked?
Well, there is other oil in the world. I mean, we're a huge producer of oil in the United States, the largest in the world, actually. And so there's a point at which, you can't make oil more expensive and people will continue to pay for it. Everyone seems to think that $150 a barrel is the peak for this if the strait is just permanently closed. So, that's $5 gas, that's maybe $5.50 gas. So, you have to wonder how much longer this is going to go and if we're going to get to that point. But that's about how high this could go.
Yeah, if the average is
Iran is going after Israel's gas fields. IRGC General Majid Moussawi says Israeli gas fields of Leviathan and Karish located in the Mediterranean have become targets. The thing is, they could actually they won't hit Turkey, but like the pipelines that flow from Azerbaijan to Israel cross through Turkey. And Turkey has the capacity to literally turn off Israel's energy literally today if they wanted to. That's number one. Number two, Israel is effectively a port nation. Most of its trade, most of its commerce comes from the ports. Okay? The overwhelming majority of its trade is conducted at its ports. If Iran actually wanted to terrorize Israel and effectively destroy the Israeli economy, they would just target the ports. I suspect that part of the reason why they have not, hit the ports as hard, obviously, the Houthis were capable of bankrupting not Haifa, but the Eilat port with their blockade last year or 2 years ago at this point. And the Hezbollah strikes have mostly focused on Haifa. And that is another capability up the escalation ladder for Iran. If Iran feels threatened, they always have more strike targets, specifically in Israel. Now that Israel has struck the Iranian energy grid, the IRGC is saying, we will strike back against your gas fields. Yeah, here's what the U.S. intelligence is saying right now. Hey, gang, this is what the CIA is saying right now. A classified report by the National Intelligence Council representing the collective wisdom of America's 18 intelligence agencies found that even a large-scale assault on Iran would be unlikely to oust its entrenched military and clerical establishment. The report outlines succession scenarios resulting from either a short or extended U.S. military campaign. In both cases, it concluded that the clerical and military establishment would respond by Khamenei's killing by following protocols designed to preserve the country's continuity of power. The report says the prospect of Iran's fragmented opposition taking control of the country is unlikely, raising doubts that Trump's declared plan to clean out Iran's leadership structure and install a ruler of his choosing would not work. It's so funny, like literally all of the intelligence community is basically universally saying the same exact shit. And this guy's like, nah, dude, the CIA is actually holding off on using their secret weapon. They got magicians and warlocks hidden inside of Langley, and they're going to come out and they're going to cast a hex on the Muslim clerics. Those leaks come from other sides of the CIA. They leaked that to cause doubt, bro. Who listens to that? You're such a idiot, dude. It's awesome. When most of your ops agree with you, this is what's left, lol. Yeah. No, gang. That's CIA, gang. That's other sides of the CIA, gang. The other sides of the CIA have the warlocks. They're ready to hex it. They're ready to hex the Iranian clerics, gang. On God. Shut the up.
$5 or $5.50. In California, that means $7, $8. And we're starting to see some of those numbers creep up there in places like Los Angeles. Thank you so much, David. Really insightful. A lot of people worrying about this very particular issue that affects literally everybody in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Happy to help.
Appreciate it.
Joining us right now is the Energy Secretary of the United States to talk about this. Chris Wright. Secretary, thank you for coming in. Does this announcement about the drawdown of SPRO and with the IEA...
Cattle gang. One of my favorite Trump-era GOP-based polling facts is that at the outset of the Ukraine war, Republicans were most likely demo to say that the U.S. wasn't providing enough aid. Their views only shifted when Trump said so. Yeah. Republican support for bombing Iran was 53%, Quinnipiac on 114, then shot up to 85 to 90% after Trump attacked Iran on 228. So there's a vague current of anti-war sentiment within the GOP, but the lesson is it's superficial and easily jettisoned whenever their cult leader goes neocon. Yep. Bro, it's so funny to think that America has like this air superiority that they are just hiding, that they haven't utilized yet. They haven't deployed. They just want the Gulf to be caught on fire. Okay? You don't understand, gang? They could open the Strait right now, bro. My uncle is Pete Hegseth. And he told me, he's a little drunk on the phone, but he told me that they could open the Strait right now if they wanted to. They just don't want to do it yet. They want the buildup. They want the buildup. They want it to be, they want everyone to feel the hurt first. And then we come in with the cavalry, baby. What's going to happen if America gets desperate enough to try to pull an oil tanker through the Strait and gets evaporated? Will you come in here and apologize? Or will you move the goalpost to something different? To be like, nah, dude, that was an old American naval asset. That's not even worthy. They wanted that to be a bullet sponge. You know what I mean? Answer the question on why we're bombing Tehran daily with no air superiority. You answered this question. What the does Tehran have to do with Iranian strike capabilities? Do you think the missile stockpiles are inside of Tehran? Is that inside of the schools? I will come in here and apologize if that happens. I will also come in here and laugh in your face if the regime falls. Oh.
Mean the problem is solved in your view?
Literally every single competent American administrator is ringing the alarm bells about how this has not gone down the way that they thought it would. And there are still dumb Amerifats in my chat who are like, no, dude, they're just casting doubt on America's military might right now in this pivotal moment for no reason. It's actually to undermine the confidence of our forces so that when we come back, it's going to be spectacular. What will it take for you to recognize you're coping? There's no fertilizer. There's no gas or oil crossing the Strait of Hormuz unless it's going to China with Chinese flagged vessels. Why do you think America's not seizing the Chinese flagged vessels right now? Why?
Oh, no, this does not mean it's solved. The problem is Iran's behavior, Iran's military, Iran's threatening for American troops, their neighbors, energy markets for 47 years. But the disruption of oil...
Dog, he keeps going back and saying Iraq. Look, Hasan, it's war. Why do you not understand that? It happens when we invaded Iraq as well. People thought shit wasn't going well. The media was pushing it. You just not getting the shit, bruh. Bruh. Are you getting the shit? I think your brain has been reduced to shit, especially because Iraq was not a success, you dingus, you fool, you moron. Your example of an American military conquest that was successful is Iraq? Are you stupid? It's war, bruh. You not getting this shit, bro, is war. Iraq was massive success.
Temporary disruption of oil through.
Dumbass literally looked at George W. Bush unfolding the mission accomplished banner and was like, see? Dude, they showed the banner on the carrier, dude. Obviously, look, can you not read the banner? It says mission accomplished. It doesn't say mission failed. Obviously, if they were failing, they would roll the mission failed. We'll get them next time banner.
The Straits of Hormuz. That's what the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is for. So as we have a shortage of market coming through that avenue, we're going to bring oil to market through other avenues to get through a few weeks of a short-term dislocation to get to a much better place on the other side.
You say a few weeks. That's the view from the United States, maybe the president. But as we've seen overnight, Iran has a say in how long this goes on. Israel has a say in how long this goes on as well, with the IEA's announcement of releasing a third of emergency reserves yesterday. Reaction overnight was oil went up over 100 again. The message being then that the only thing that matters is Hormuz. Can the United States declare victory, success, without the Strait of Hormuz being reopened?
No, the Straits of Hormuz needs to be and will be reopened.
I agree that the war as a whole wasn't a success, but the invasion was. Brother, first of all, no one has ever said, well, we won the battle, but we lost the war, and then used that as a resounding success. That's number one. And number two, that's precisely what I was joking about with the mission accomplished banner. And number two, if you think invading Iran is going to play out in the same way that it did with the invasion of Iraq, you are a idiot. Okay, bro, it was a spectacular success. It's war, gang. That's why we got ISIS now. It's sick.
The U.S. military is there to solve a long-term problem, which is Iran's had 47 years in ability to.
You don't get it, bro. We're up 3 in the first quarter.
Threaten the Straits of Hormuz, and not long from now, Iran would have nuclear arms and a massive missile.
By the way, it doesn't even matter because right now we're not even up 3 in the first quarter. Okay, we're down 50 in the first quarter. Okay, like. That's why it's even funnier where people are like, no, you don't understand, bro. Like, it's different, bro. It's different. It's going to be, we won, gang. We won, gangy.
Program surrounding that. This was a can that could not be kicked down the road one more administration. We need to defang, and we are defanging Iran's abilities to threaten American troops in the areas, its allies, its neighbors, and global energy markets. So, yes, you've got to go through short-term pain to solve a long-term problem. This is bold leadership of President Trump. This is what the world needs.
But understanding this going in, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve was at about half-ish, I'll say, full when the war started. The president had campaigned, Secretary, on refilling the Strategic Reserve right up to the top, his words. Why go to war in the Middle East with a depleted emergency reserve?
Well, number one, as we bring this oil out, it will be exchanges. We'll pull out 170 million barrels and put over 200 million barrels back in at no cost to the taxpayer. Because the price of oil in the short term is higher right now than the price of oil a year down the road.
But that doesn't alleviate the crisis today.
Help.
You can only put back, the flow rate can only be about 2 million, and that's being optimistic, barrels a day into the global system. So you've got a long time to untwist this problem, no matter what.
And of course, this is in coordination with 30 countries. The real issue right now is Asian refineries. That's where oil coming out of the Gulf goes to. So Japan is releasing at a much higher relative rate to their imports. It's the Asian refineries that we want to keep running and tamp down the price of oil to the extent.
Don't worry, they'll go to China for some of that sweet juice that comes out of the ground, okay? Don't worry. They're good. They're good, buddy. They'll get that sweet Iranian crude, baby. Oh, buddy.
We can through this few weeks crisis. President Trump's thinking long term. He's not thinking about next month. He's thinking about what's best for the American people, what's best for the American economy, and what brings safety to our troops in the region and brings prosperity to the Middle East. That is a troubled.
Yeah. things are going so good that CENTCOM forced CBS to delete their tweet reporting on a KC-135 Stratotanker going down in Western Iraq with a crew of 6. Another KC-135 was hit but landed in Israel safely. That's how you know shit's going so well, dude. That's on purpose, bro. On God. We wanted to do a feint. We wanted to make it seem like our Stratotankers are actually totally bullet hungry. Okay? You don't understand. KC-135s do this when they're actually elated, when they're ecstatic. They turn into a missile sponge on purpose. Okay? All part of the plan. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, we needed new ones. What's the production runway on that? What's the timeline looking like? Couple of years? They'll replace them.
Region that needs to have.
Breaking via CBS News, there was another U.S. military medical evacuation flight today. It flew from Saudi Arabia to a U.S. base in Germany with about 19 injured service members on board. Among them were 2 military members injured when a drone exploded next to their vehicle, sources told me. If Iran can destroy the Gulf states, then wasn't the war lost day one? I mean, you got to take that up with the American commanders that leaned into it. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point. Yes, Iran was always capable of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. Iran was capable, clearly, of destroying all of the American assets in the Gulf states. They were able to do that for years and years. They just simply didn't do so until we backed them into a goddamn corner and assassinated their heads of state that were the ones who were seemingly holding back the Iranian forces' full capabilities. So that was a strategic that was an act of sheer strategic brilliance. Yeah, there was another odd accident that took place on the USS Ford. On March 12th, USS Gerald R. Ford experienced a fire that originated in the ship's main laundry spaces. The cause of the fire was not combat related and is contained. There's no damage to the ship's propulsion plant, and the aircraft carrier remains fully operational. 2 sailors are currently receiving medical treatment for non-life-threatening injuries and are in stable condition. Additional information will be provided when available. Combat engineer here. They forgot to empty a lint trap. That's so funny. Dude, $13 billion asset for the American Navy. And the most comical setbacks keep happening inside of it. I'm sorry. It's like Looney Tunes, man. Like first they had the pumps. First they were like, we're shitting too hard. And now we lost to lint. What the is happening? Shit disasters and dryer fires like a slum apartment? Yeah, what the hell? Scahill on a ground invasion says, when you start to believe your own delusions, when you start to imply that every single Iranian is a prisoner to a dictatorship of a mullah, the rhetoric that these guys use at the Pentagon, at the White House on down, and you start to believe it, get high on your own supply, then you start to say, oh, well, if we come in with ground troops and Netanyahu's telling us people are going to rise up, you end up at an utter catastrophe. I think the American generals are probably a little bit smarter than that. I think they would do a Hitler-style generals mutiny before they would allow that to happen. But I don't know. Maybe they would. Maybe they're dumb enough. Who knows? Because they were dumb enough to allow this to happen. Where the is Raising Cane, dude? Raising Cane was so desperate to get the word out that this was going to be a spectacular failure that he literally leaked it to every single news outlet. Do you guys remember? Couple days prior to the American bombing campaigns starting, General Raising Cane literally leaked it to every American news outlet that this was not gonna work. General Dan Raising Cane. But guess what, dude? We got Pete Kegsbreath commanding our forces. Why the do you think he was doing that? They purged most of the generals, though. They're all loyal dogs to Trump. Yes, of course they're loyal dogs to Trump. But even the most loyal dog doesn't want the death of American empire to be his legacy. Okay? What general is looking at the probable outcomes of this and thinking, oh, we'll make it? What general wants to be remembered as the guy who destroyed American empire on their record? That's the reason why General Dan Raisin Kane was leaking this information in the buildup. While the buildup was going on, look, I don't know exactly what happened behind closed doors. I can simply speculate by what I'm reading. And what I suspect took place is Trump convened with all of these generals, including Dan Kane, okay, his most competent leader, who has been fairly pliant thus far, even when Trump forces his hand into spectacular defeats like he did with the Ansar Allah movement, right? Twice. So Donald Trump listened to the generals, and the generals are like, don't do this. This is a terrible idea. They will close the strait. Okay? They will close the strait, and they will blow up all of our troop positions in the Gulf. And we will look very weak to the rest of the world if you do this, because we do not have the munitions capabilities to defend all of our assets in the region that are so close to Iranian ballistic missiles. Donald Trump then said, off, Netanyahu told me we can do it. Couple days of intense bombing, in and out, regime change, it'll be just like Venezuela. Obviously, that conversation didn't go the way that Dan Kane wanted it to, so he did something that generals only do when they are fearful and they want to wash their hands of what comes next. He went to the media, every single outlet from Axios to CNN to CBS, where he was literally straight up saying, we don't have enough defense capabilities to defend Israel or the rest of our assets in the region. This will be a spectacular failure, and it will show China that we are weak. And now we're watching it unfold. I personally didn't think it would be this bad, though. I didn't think it would be this quick. I did not think it'd be this swift. Yes, I know the medical evacuation flight. It's right here.
It's one major problem fixed.
Secretary, the immediate focus is...
Yeah, what I'm shocked by is, as Pete Hegseth told me, no fat generals, no women, no black people. It's all just white people. I thought this was going to be glorious. What the hell's going on? I thought our war fighters were in charge. Why is it not working? Where the f are our war fighters? Our white and skinny war fighters.
Very clearly, in some part, and needs in likely becoming more part, getting the Strait of Hormuz open. The Biden administration, when faced with threats to shipping in a different regard, they formed a naval coalition with many countries to help protect shipping in the Red Sea when an Iranian proxy fired at ships. Why aren't you doing the same here when success hinges on reopening the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we will and are doing the same thing. But right now, all of our military assets are focused on degrading, destroying Iran's ability to threaten its neighbors, to threaten our troops. So we're destroying their ability to produce.
They're like, why won't you reopen the strait? And they're like, oh, because we're busy elsewhere. Okay? That's why. It's just because we don't even want to open the strait right now. You know, it's better closed, honestly. It's so much better because, you know, Russia's making more money. Only Chinese tankers are getting through. We love that, personally.
Missiles, to produce a nuclear program, to produce weapons of all kinds, not just their existing weapons, their ability to produce those weapons. You will see the United States working with other nations to allow the return of traffic through the Straits of Hormuz. That's coming. We're less than 2 weeks into this 47-year-long conflict. So
47 years, nothing happens. The one time America literally bombs Iran, Iran starts beating the doors off of every goddamn American asset in the region. Fantastic. You guys really did it, man. Thank you.
Yes.
But I've heard from many a smart person, though, who worked in previous administrations, though, if it was safe for the U.S. Navy to escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, they would be doing so right now.
All of our military assets right now are focused on destroying Iran's ability to wage war and terrorize the neighborhood. When we can afford some additional assets to move tankers through the Straits of Hormuz, we will do that. That's coming.
More ships were struck in the Strait overnight. The tankers on fire.
IRGC's the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier sustained severe damage following targeting by missiles and drones. Wait, what? The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier sustained severe damage following targeting by missiles and drones? That might be an exaggeration. Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
The Port of Oman. Add it all up. Are we in the midst of a severe global oil crisis, Secretary?
Bro's saying this, but we drop more. Dog, you literally have the energy secretary over here being like, oh, we could open the Strait of Hormuz right now if we wanted to. We just choose not to. Like babbling like a idiot. Even the CNN anchor is like, come on, dude. What the are you talking about? And you still, like, they're not making a good enough argument. You're just convincing yourself. It's crazy. Where is this confidence coming from? Like, not a single person in this administration has been able to posture in a way that actually inspires confidence. And there are still dumb livestock in here being like, no, dog, I know that every single administration official is talking like their children have guns pointed directly at their heads. They're just stumbling over their words. They're not even able to get the pliant mainstream media to respond positively to the information that they're throwing out there that immediately contradicts the realities that are unfolding on the ground. But there's something out there. There's this overwhelming belief that I have in some kind of divine intervention that will actually solve the situation, that will actually change the dynamic completely. This is infinitely worse than when mainstream media kept saying the Ukrainian counteroffensive is going to be successful. This is literally far worse than that, okay? It's far worse than that. Most Americans have this viewpoint. I mean, yeah, they'll change their viewpoint quickly enough when they have to pay $25 for Tostino's pizza bagels, okay? $40 for pizza bagels.
Of a significant disruption in the short term to fix the security of energy flow for the long term.
How hard is the pain and how much are people going to have to endure? Gas prices are going up, jet fuel prices are jumping, and CEOs are saying that ticket prices.
Wait a minute. CBS News, an Iranian vessel sailed too close to the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier and the U.S. fired at the vessel. This comes right after the IRGC said that they actually struck the vessel. U.S. fired an Iranian vessel that approached the aircraft carrier, officials say. Washington, an Iranian vessel sailed too close to the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, and the U.S. fired at the vessel, according to two U.S. officials briefed on the matter who spoke to CBS News under condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. The official said a U.S. Navy vessel attempted to fire on the Iranian vessel using 5-inch 54 caliber Mark 45 gun, a fully automated naval cannon that is mounted on the forward deck of Navy destroyers and the cruisers that have served as fleet's standard deck guns since the early 1970s. While it's not known which naval vessel fired on the Iranian ship, the official said it missed multiple times.
Bruh. 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 Bruh.
You missed? It's so much worse than I could have imagined. It feels like it's we must make the military woke again. Bro! It turns out the unwoke military is not doing great, okay? How are they firing on Iranian ships? A few days ago, they said they destroyed their navy. Those Iranian shipbuilders must be wizards. They're producing fleets faster than China makes shitty electronics. Yeah, because they lied. They didn't destroy the Iranian navy. Vietnam, we actually lost those planes to Soviet SAMs and not Vietnamese pilots. Operation Pederast resolved. Who knows why anything truly happens? Is a plane ever truly lost? Matter cannot be created or destroyed. It's possible we'll see it again in some form. Oh, it's so embarrassing, brother. It is. It's just like this is so much worse than they gonna find out why we don't have healthcare, because like no one is even finding out anything. The only thing we're finding out is that we don't have healthcare. And it turns out we don't even have decent, competent military might either. We don't even have the force projection capabilities. So why the don't we have healthcare? Just give me the healthcare. Enough with this shit. Cut it out.
Are also going to go up. Iran just said that the world should be ready for oil at $200 a barrel. You don't agree with Iran on anything, but do you agree that people need to be prepared for that?
We're going through short-term energy disruption for just huge long-term gain. You're seeing Iran's behavior.
Could
They're
that
attacking
hit? Could
every
short-term
country in the
mean
region.
$200 a barrel?
I would say unlikely, but we are focused on the military operation and solving a problem. I'm not going to guess on short-term trading. That's based on psychology more than flows of oil. The world is very well supplied with oil right now. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, we're by far and away the world's largest oil producer, by far and away the world's natural gas producer. Both of those are growing. We've been moving into an age of energy security.
Oh my gosh, shut the up. Dude, hearing Asmongold pretend to know the last few decades of U.S.-Iranian interactions is legit hilarious. Is like a slow child. Dude, it's even more hilarious that there is like a decent number of people that would rather listen to someone who is genuinely low IQ, but is barely competent and barely capable of like explaining these events from the perspective of an administration that is failing at every step. Okay, failing in such spectacular ways that it's like virtually impossible not to recognize that America is literally destroying everything right now, destroying all of their force projection capabilities, destroying what remained in the confidence that all of these other like regional allies had. It's so funny. Is there a clip that demonstrates his brilliance? Yeah, chat. We got to keep blowing these freaks up. I mean, they're Islamic pedophiles, chat. Our weapons are so powerful, chat. No, the Strato tanker, I don't even know what that is, but refueling planes always crash. Based. It's actually based that a $60 billion asset was taken out by an Iraqi resistance figure with possible surface-to-air missiles, chat. It's cool. Trust the plan. Based. Yeah. Roadside bombs. That's what my goat told me. Asman is based as FAC. New pet, do not ban. Yeah. Based. Hasan is crashing out. Let me get a sip of my diet. Or not diet. He doesn't drink diet. Let me get a sip of my Dr. Pepper and talk to you guys about how cool it is that we're going to war for Israel and basically destroying all of our assets in the region. Yeah.
Do you regret your vote right now?
Well, between him and her, I thought he was the better choice, but honestly, I miss my Uncle Joe.
Oh my God, I'm nutting. Oh, uncontrollable coming. Oh, shit. Oh.
The nobody, and I was balling then. Now, I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even show you $5 in my pocket.
He said, I miss Uncle Joe. Oh, no. Oh, no. That's so bad.
The Trump voters here in Florida who are ticked off about the fact that the gas prices in the state have gone up by an average of about 60 cents within just a week.
I would just wish he'd keep up on his campaign promise and say he was going to put it under $3. He'd end that war so fast.
Amerifats are so funny, dude. This is that's it. The only thing they know about is their wallets hurting. That's it.
But here it is, 5 years later, helping his buddy out get his more money, and then never mind charging us Americans all sorts of money for fuel that you just stole from Venezuela.
And those gas prices are getting higher because of volatile oil prices due to the war in Iran, a war that these Trump voters tell us they hope wraps up quickly.
If I could, speak to the president, I'd just encourage him to finish up this war and get us.
Sir, Mr. President, please pack it up. Please pack it up, please. I need people to explain to me, like, whether you're an Atlanticist, whether you're a neocon, I need one person who's not a psychopathic evangelical Christian Zionist to explain to me one military objective that has been accomplished here. One single W in the last 12 days, please. Because every single person that's come in here to defend this has just been like, they have the brain of a 12-year-old. Like they'll just be like, oh, dude, like, you don't get it, man. This is gonna be fine in the end. It's sick. Like, one thing, show me one thing, please. Like, the greatest W that you can put on the board is that we killed an 87-year-old man who probably had cancer. That's what we did. We martyred an 87-year-old man who could have died of a heart attack if we waited a week. That's the W. And that didn't even accomplish the objective of destabilizing and crippling the state. It literally hardened the population support. Because in the process of killing the 87-year-old man, we blew up a school with 150 schoolgirls that we killed between the ages of 7 and 12. Then Israel blew up their Iranian oil capabilities and engaged in chemical warfare in a city with 10 million people. In one of the hubs of resistance against the IRGC and against the Ayatollah, causing everyone to go, okay, well, they're engaging in chemical warfare against us. Turns out they don't want to liberate us. All the while, the Strait of Hormuz is closed and tens of billions of American military assets have been destroyed. Israel's defense capabilities diminished in the process. Our defense capabilities have withered away in the process, so much so that we had to pull our THAAD missile systems from South Korea, not only showing the Gulf allies who are responsible for trillions of dollars of investment on U.S. soil to feel like an American security contract just makes you a missile sponge for Israel. And now South Korea is realizing that we won't even defend them. There's not a single W that you can lean into in this situation. Not a single one. This is basically the dream of anti-imperialists to showcase how unnecessary all this warfare is. It's worse than I ever could have imagined. I warned about some of these things happening. Right, ahead of time. But I could not have foreseen how fast everything would collapse. I personally thought we at least had enough defensive capabilities to defend radar installations in our own military bases. This is the empire falling. It's falling. It's over. My voice is cracking. These are the weeks where decades happen.
Back to a safe world.
He's saying about for our safety, leave somebody alone, they won't bother you.
Hopefully this conflict over there will end, it's just unfortunate.
The overall vibe here at the gas pump amongst these Trump voters is they feel like the economy is not going well right now.
At the moment, I'm really out of work.
My hope is that it's temporary and it doesn't last for too long. The oil prices come back down. That's my hope.
Aside from the obvious other shit that makes Trump the worst president in history, are we thinking this whole thing will make him even worse than Jimmy Carter in the eyes of normies and historians? Everyone points and laughs at Carter, but this is just a whole new level of. Honestly, Trump might literally be the best American president because he just ends the American empire. He might be, for the rest of the world, the greatest American president. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.